Okay. Item number 7, Assemblymember Alejo. This is the Safe Water and Wildlife Protection Act of 2016. Oh, sure. Okay, with that, let's move to item number 23, AB 1071 by Speaker Atkins on supplemental environmental projects. I'm sorry I was blocked.
No problem. I was going to defer to
And thank you for
the senior member of the Latino caucus there. So. But good morning. It's my pleasure to present AB 1071, a bill I probably have joint authored with Speaker Atkins. First, I'd like to accept the suggested amendments noted on page 4 and 5 of the committee analysis, and we'll be working with the committee to draft appropriate language to address the nexus consideration and additional intent language to clearly articulate the importance of incorporating environmental justice communities in the SEP policies. Environmental justice communities across the state are disproportionately impacted by various types of pollutions and need resources to combat and address the negative environmental and public health impacts that affect their neighborhoods. AB 1071 requires each board, department, and office within the California Protection Agency to establish a supplemental environmental project, or known as SEP, policy to assess environmental justice communities. It also gives them broad discretion to design SEP policy that fits their needs and regulatory procedures. AB 1071 allows up to 50% of the final settlement to be used for SEP's projects and requires the Cal EPA's boards to create an annual list of environmental justice projects that may be funded through SEP. We have Amy Vander Walker here to testify in support of the bill.
Please.
Hi. Hello. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Amy Vander Walker. I am the co-director of the California Environmental Justice Alliance. We are a statewide coalition made up of grassroots, community-based organizations working to address environmental issues that impact low-income communities and communities of color. We have a 6-member organizations and 4 partners, and altogether we represent approximately 20,000 working-class Californians of color. For organizations such as ours working on the ground in some of California's most polluted communities, we see the impacts of multiple environmental violations every day. Whether it's the notorious case of Exide in Southeast LA or violations from big refineries such as Chevron in Richmond, communities of color pay the price with their health and quality of life when our state's environmental laws are broken. Unfortunately, there are almost no mechanisms by which communities can have these health or environmental harms addressed. A violation occurs, an entity is fined, and then the entity pays the enforcement agency. While these agencies are often doing good work to protect our communities, the community itself does not see any direct benefits. Supplemental environmental projects are one of the few policy tools enforcement agencies have to ensure that communities are able to see beneficial projects that improve their health and environment after harm has been done. By creating an environmental justice specific supplemental environmental project program, AB 1071 will ensure that disadvantaged communities are able to see direct benefits when a violation occurs if a violator chooses to fund a project. It will give enforcement agencies the tools to ensure that their settlements and actions can lead to direct benefits in most impacted communities, and will give community-based organizations the opportunity to put forward the many solutions that they would like to see to help prevent future violations or address issues caused by pollution. Agencies across the state are developing new models for achieving environmental justice through SEPs, and AB 1071 is a chance to replicate these models. The Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board and the Department of Toxic Substance Control are both working on or already have developed EJ-specific SEP policies. AB 1071 helps ensure that other environmental enforcement agencies are able to build off these successes and to see even greater benefits for highly impacted communities across California. We thank both Speaker Atkins and Assemblymember Garcia for their leadership on this issue and urge your aye vote on AB 1071.
Others in support of AB 1071, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Quentin Foster, also on behalf of the California Environmental Justice Alliance and also on behalf of the California League of Conservation Voters. In strong support of this bill, we urge your aye vote in today's committee. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kayla Race with Environmental Health Coalition in San Diego, and we are a member of the California Environmental Justice Alliance, and we urge your support on this. Thank you.
Bill McGavin with Coalition for Clean Air and Support.
Claire Dusser on behalf of Valley Clean Air Now in support.
Debbie Orrs with Community Water Center in support.
Christian Molina from Sierra Club, California, in support of this bill.
Sophia Perino with the Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment in support.
Greetings, Parin Shah with APEN, Asian Pacific Environmental Network in support.
Alex Jackson with NRDC in support.
Bill Alio, Environmental Working Group in support.
Opposition to AB 1071. All right, seeing none, let's bring it back to members. Questions of the author? I don't have any questions. All right, you may close.
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Assistant, please call the roll. This is,
Mr. Chair, you have a motion?
oh. I do have a motion, Mr. Lennon. Do I have it now?
Make sure you do.
Thank you.
Item 23, AB 1071, by Assembly Speaker Atkins and Member Eduardo Garcia. The motion is due pass as amended and referred to Committee on Appropriations. Senators Wieckowski?
Aye.
Wieckowski, aye. Gaines? Gaines, aye. Bates? Bates, aye. Hill? Jackson? Leno? Leno, aye. Pavley? 4-0.
Okay, that's 4-0. We'll keep that roll open. Let's move to item number 28, the California Global Warming Solutions Act of 2006 regulations.
Thank you. Again, I'll be pinch hitting here for Madam Speaker Atkins. AB 1288 recognizes the importance of continuing California's greenhouse gas emission reduction efforts after 2020. Specifically, AB 1288 clarifies the ongoing role of market-based mechanisms in helping to meet our greenhouse gas reduction goals. California's climate programs continue to serve as a national and international standard for tackling climate change in a manner that maintains our economic vibrancy. While we have made great strides in meeting our first set of goals, there is still more work to be done. Our cap and trade program has proven to be an effective complementary strategy for meeting our greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals and should continue to play a role in achieving further reductions. I have a couple witnesses here that would like to testify in support of the bill.
Very good. We think the market mechanisms have been working, so I appreciate the legislation. First witness.
Okay. Mr. Chair and members, Bonnie Holmes-Jen with the American Lung Association in California. Statewide, about 28 million Californians live in counties affected by unhealthy levels of smog and soot. And as we know, climate change and the drought conditions and heat, excessive heat and other climate conditions are worsening our air pollution and slowing California's progress toward clean air, creating a range of other health impacts. And that's why the American Lung Association in California and health leaders are strongly supporting AB 1288 and the need to continue and ramp up efforts to achieve our greenhouse gas reductions through a broad range of tools, including the market mechanisms. Cap and trade and other greenhouse gas reduction programs are returning billions in health benefits through reduced respiratory and cardiac illnesses and other health benefits. We have done our own research demonstrating $8.2 billion in annual benefits just from efforts to reduce emissions from clean fuels programs. And that's why we're supporting AB 1288. As you've said, it's been a tremendous success, not only with reduced greenhouse gas emissions, but with investments throughout California in clean energy programs in communities around the state. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. Also pleased to be here supporting. Sorry for our late letter. It came out yesterday, but we're here today supporting this. It's a twofer. Between AB 32 and cap and trade, you're cleaning the air and you're creating jobs. Thousands of construction workers are going to work, working in the green economy. All of our apprenticeship programs have either ramped up or are ramping up to begin to train apprentices, construction workers on the cutting edge technologies needed to keep the air clean, to make buildings cleaner. And the program only continued to build upon these excellent results. We're also very happy that the program directs critical funds for reducing GHG levels to low-income areas. A lot of our members live in these areas. you don't become very wealthy as a construction worker. You make a good living, but you certainly live in some areas that are more prone to being affected by GHG than others. So we're happy that those funds are there. We're happy to support the bill today. Thank you.
Others in support of AB 1288 by Atkins.
Good afternoon, Alex Jackson with NRDC in support of the bill as one piece of our comprehensive climate portfolio. In contrast to what we're about to hear, this should all move forward, not in lieu of all the other programs under the umbrella of AB 32. Thank you.
Michael Pimentel on behalf of Advanced Energy Economy in support.
Corey Bullis on behalf of Environmental Defense Fund in support.
Cassandra Goff on behalf of Calpine Corporation in support.
Katrina Robinson on behalf of Audubon and California Trout in support.
Michelle Passero with the Nature Conservancy in support.
Charles Watson on behalf of CalSTART and AdaGen in support. Thank you.
Genevieve Abaddon on behalf of Californians Against Waste in support. Thank you.
Claire Desser on behalf of California Association of Local Conservation Corps in support.
Kelly Doan on behalf of California Lake Conservation Voters in support.
Amy Trainer, Westmoreland Environmental Action Committee in support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dan Jacobson, Environment California, support.
All right, let's hear from the opposition. This is item 28, AB 1288. Good afternoon.
Mr. Chairman and members, Eli Garcia for the Western States Petroleum Association, actually here with a support position. We actually have a support, if amended, position on, Madam Speaker, bill to extend the market-based mechanism. If you're going to extend the climate change program beyond 2020, as you're proposing to do this year with SB 32 and other administrative actions, we think it's absolutely essential that you extend the market-based mechanism. In fact, we would go further and say that you need to rely more on the market-based mechanism. Today, the cap-and-trade program accounts for about 20% of the emission reductions. You've seen substantial revenue from it, but in terms of emission reductions, we're really not relying on it all that much. We think we need to rely on it a lot more. There's a substantial difference in the cost to the economy, cost to obligated parties, if we reduce the emissions through a market-based mechanism. Right now, cap-and-trade allowances are trading for about $12 a ton. You should compare that with the cost of reducing the same ton of emissions from complementary policies. The low-carbon fuel standard, for example, is trading at about $40 a ton and expected to rise to about $200 a ton. There is a substantial difference in cost, not only to obligated parties, but to your constituents, to the economy, in how you choose to reduce the emissions. Again, we support the bill. We think AB 1288 focuses on the right policy going forward. We would encourage you to rely more on the market-based mechanism and to start to transition away from more costly complementary measures that don't give you any additional benefits, just additional cost. So we would encourage you to take a look at that before you finalize any policies to extend climate change. We think the right and complete combination is extending the climate change program, but relying on market-based mechanisms. For that reason, we support the bill with amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Michael Shaw, California Manufacturers and Technology Association. And we must, respectfully oppose the speaker's bill. I think many of our points are similar to that of Mr. Garcia, so I won't repeat that. But we, at this time, cannot support extension of cap-and-trade program that fails to meet certain criteria that we believe are critical to helping California manufacturers and the economy in general continue to thrive going forward, while at the same time achieving our overall emissions, GHG emissions reduction goals. I would note in the analysis that one of the comments was, is it too soon to tell? And we would agree, as Mr. Garcia pointed out, we've yet to see really the impact of the emissions reductions because they're so backloaded in AB 32. We saw a little bit of the surrender of allowances at the end of last year. We're going to see a more significant element at the end of this year. But beginning in 2018, we see that number increase significantly as there is a significant reduction in industry assistance, or the free allowances that are made available to companies in a cap-and-trade program up to a certain limit. We would support extending that industry assistance at 100% throughout the cap-and-trade program. We think that this is not, reducing the industry assistance has nothing to do with reaching the goal of GHG emissions reductions. That goal stays in place. What is important is that we do not impose additional costs on California businesses by when we reduce that industry assistance, we are passing on those higher costs. That results in higher costs for your constituents. We would also believe that establishing a hard price cap, which ARB has the authority to do but has yet to do and is apparently unwilling to do at this point, is important because that assures that we will not go above a certain amount, and that protects, again, against price spikes and higher costs. ARB does have a small, what they call allowance price containment reserve. However, once that's exhausted, all the bets are off at that point in time. And we, again, as in 2018, when we begin the third compliance period, may see a significant increase in costs as a result of that. So we do appreciate the speaker's focus on a market-based mechanism. We would certainly encourage others, who are addressing this issue in legislation, to make that a bigger focal point of their efforts to combat global climate change. And California manufacturers do support moving forward to be efficient as possible, to reduce their impact on the environment as much as possible, both in terms of pollutants as well as GHG emissions, because ultimately this good sense, good business for us. The more efficient we are, the more we can save, the more we can save, the more we can invest, and we appreciate that. So, but at this point in time, we must respectfully oppose the bill. Thank you.
I'm not joining the bills, but I see what you're saying is if this was part of a more comprehensive revision on SB 32.
Correct. If we looked at it in a larger perspective, we believe that this should be a well-designed market-based mechanism would be a good, the good focal point for that versus the complementary measures that aren't achieving the goals. They're very sector-focused and very narrow, which increases costs in those particular areas. As Mr. Garcia noted, a broad-based system such as cap and trade with the appropriate design reforms, we believe would help spread that across the entire economy and would ultimately minimize the impacts on particular sectors and the jobs as well.
Thank you for your input. Others opposed?
Yes, my name is Brent Newell. I'm with the Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment. We respectfully oppose the bill for two primary reasons. First, ARB's authority does not lapse until 2020. There's 5 years between now and then for the legislature to evaluate the efficacy of cap and trade as a control strategy. There's been 1 year of data that's come in, as the committee analysis points out, and in that year, 2013, industrial emissions actually went up for cement and oil production, oil refining. So cap and trade isn't necessarily working based on the data that we have, the limited data that we have currently. I urge the committee to take a leadership role here and work with the speaker to assess whether this strategy actually makes sense from a policymaking perspective. There is time. Rushing to judgment now is totally premature. Secondly, this is a serious environmental justice issue. Communities that live near facilities regulated by cap and trade are denied the health benefits of direct emissions reductions when those facilities are allowed to trade away their compliance. That's all.
No, I'm familiar with that criticism. It's there. Others opposed?
My name is Penny Newman. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice in the Riverside San Bernardino area. I endorse the comments of CRPE in opposing this bill at this time. I think, again, we have time to really look at the program, how it is being implemented, if it is being effective, and if it is addressing some of the conditions that our communities and low-income communities of color are really facing. We have an opportunity to not only reduce greenhouse gases, but also the co-pollutants, and I think we need to take advantage of that. This program does not allow that to happen, and so I would join with CRPE in opposition to this. Thank you.
Councilwoman Garcia, premature isn't strict enough. What would you say to the opposition?